Welcome to A Hunter's Guide, here to teach you the do's and don'ts of the paranormal and occult. This week, we're covering Bigfoot and the Yeti, man in a costume, distant relative in evolution, or beast of the unknown. You decide. For this topic, we're going to be starting off with Bigfoot, a native to the North American region. There are hundreds of tales of the burly beast, but none that I could find that lasted more than a few minutes. And that's with a lot of the internet talking mostly about videos and pictures caught on tape, not many tales of just encounters by itself. Now, Jim Mills has the longest video on record of Bigfoot. 7 minutes of a tall, strange-looking creature skulking around a nearby ridge. Another recording captured is called the Independence Day film, where it shows that what seems to be an adult Bigfoot followed by a young cub. But the most famous images captured are by a hunter named Rick Jacobs. He captured several clear shots of the beast from his tree cam in Pennsylvania Allegheny National Forest, along with pictures of bears to compare to. Now, plenty of people claim these images and videos are all hocus pocus. Guys in suits, mangy bears, edited, cropped, and altered in some way, shape, or form. But what if they aren't? What if there is some large biped walking through the woods, just living it up, raising his boy, looking for gorilla cheeks to clap? Who's to say that a rare species isn't roaming around all just avoiding human interaction? I mean, I know I avoid human interaction every day. As much as we populate this godforsaken earth, we can't see everything. We still discover new animals every day, and don't get me started on the mysteries of the ocean. But let's get into the lore of Bigfoot. Let's get into where this thing came from and what he's doing when he's not kicking back in Maui. Bigfoot is one of the oldest creatures recorded in white American mythology. He was part of plenty of folklore of pretty much all Native American tribes. They had plenty of names for the beast hiding in the mountains or living amongst the tribes. But he isn't just spotted in America. In fact, this giant burly ape has been spotted all over the world, which explains the many names like Sasquatch, Yowie, Alma, Yedin. But they each have small differences that make me believe that, just like man, they may have evolved differently for each region. Hence why I'm only covering Bigfoot and the Yeti, the two most famous races of the old hairy uncle in the woods. Now, nobody recorded the natives' first encounters of the big man, but J.W. Burns wasted no time writing down his encounter and throwing it into the public like a chimpanzee at the zoo throws his shit into a crowd and hits a kid in the face and laughs while the boy screams in horror and cries cling to his mom and, oh god, I might need some fucking help. Oh shit. Not again. Well, back to it. Well, J.W. was a teacher that spent most of his time in the Chehalis Indian Reserve. While there, he heard stories of wild men or fathers of the forest. He pushed for more info, but they refused for years because they didn't want to admit being afraid of some hairy ape in the woods that no colonist would ever believe. Another factor could have been that the creature always kept a large distance and could be written off as a bear. Sightings were rare to begin with. You have better luck looking for tracks in the mud. But one day, J.W. found somebody with a close encounter. Peter Williams, a native of the Chehalis Reserve. Peter told him a tale of a giant he encountered in the forest while hunting. He had almost mistaken the creature for a bear when it suddenly stood up and revealed itself to be a giant man covered in thick hair. The creature jumped from where it had been perched and started chasing Peter through the woods. It reportedly chased him all the way to his home, where it then pushed against the walls with its bare hands and caused significant damage to the property. Peter wasn't the only one to encounter it, though. For 2 or 3 years, several people spoke up of encounters for these giants. Hell, apparently one was female, so there could have been an entire family making a mess of the place. But through these years, newspapers were knocking out stories back to back before sightings suddenly stopped. No trace to be found besides rumors by the natives that they may have moved on to a nearby mountain. Now, by this point, we all would be wondering how we got stuck with the name Bigfoot instead of Ape Man or something else. Well, you can blame the old boy Gerald Crew from California that stumbled upon footprints in his construction yard that he decided to make molds of. He'd have thought they were human, but they were as big as his torso. Now, along with a massive print, Bigfoot is said to be a large, burly man, much bigger than you or I unless you're some 10-foot weightlifter. He's hairy, obviously, kind of cross between a gorilla and a man, sometimes adorned with claws, varying hairstyles between a black bowl cut, red fro, or a brown mullet. Basic humanoid sex organs. Pretty much think of a furry. We've all seen them. Ugh, gross. Oh, and the boy's got a massive 5-head apparently. Fucking boom, he's a thinker. Big Shmee is generally recorded to be very docile and private, just trying to do their own thing, play some video games, whatever they do. Steal some fish from traps like I steal chips from the pantry. Although if you see 2 or more at the same time, you might have a chance to overhear them speaking their own secret language. But that's not to say they're not me or some other dork from fucking middle school. Now, that's not to say that they're all good and dandy. Some are recorded to be very violent, and you don't want this guy mad. It's been told that sometimes people will be dragged away to get death by snoo-snood. Or, just beaten to death. I don't know. But some were apparently cannibals, so we don't really know everything. Probably just as different from beast to beast as we are man to man. Everybody's different. I personally don't have any experiences with any of these large bipeds, but my brother has one. I'd have him tell it, but he's not here, and I got the go ahead to tell you this long, treacherous tale of man versus beast. There he was, my bro and his bud, deep into the mountains, farther than most men would dare to go in fears of getting lost. But my boy wanted the best spot, and by God, he was going to get it. There they were, standing by a river, bait in the water, rod in hand, trying to enjoy a nice sunny evening with some fish. When they spotted him, Bigfoot, my bro looked over from his lure and saw a giant ape take 2 steps to get over this large, majestic river, and he froze. What was he to do? He's a small fry to this thing, a gnat, and all he's got with him is rod and bait. When the beast was out of sight, they ran. They didn't stop until they made it back to the truck, and they booked it all the way home. And that's Bigfoot for you. Avoid the hairy giant. He probably just wants some chips and porn. But if you gotta fight him, just treat him like you'd fight a gorilla. Shotgun, elephant trunk, pray to fucking God. Hope the worst that happens is the Bigfoot mating call you shouted didn't work too well. Or at least that they're gonna be a lot more gentle than your Uncle Ted. And from there, let's just jump straight into the Yeti. With the Yeti, sightings have a different kind of range. We have the Zute, that stands 8 feet tall on his back legs, but prefers to walk on all 4s and has the strength to kill a yak in one easy blow. Then we have the Chute, or the Thelma, that's a little reddish and the size of a child that walks on 2 legs. Because apparently his arms are freakishly long and hangs around the forests of Nepal and Sikkim. And then there's the Mete, that is kind of orange and red and loves attacking humans. He's the one that all the lore is from. He's the one that you're going to have to watch out for majority of the time. The earliest Western account of a wild man in the Himalayas dates back to 1832. Brian Hodgson was the first British man permitted into the Forbidden Land. Brian was only interested in natural history and ethnography of the region, but he still had to follow the Nepalese laws. Nipple laws. He had to follow the nipple laws. He reported that the natives were frightened of a wild man in the area. In the neighborhood temples of Nepal Valley, hunters were frightened of an apparition of a wild man. Possibly in Orang, they mistook the creature for a cacodemon or rakshas and fled instead of taking a shot. They said the beast walked erect and was covered with long dark hair. Now that just sounds like me in high school, so I don't blame him. This other story is told by Charles Howard Bury of his reconnaissance expedition of Mount Everest in 1921. He saw something when crossing the Lakpa, L-H-A-K-P-A, however you say that, Lakpa, at 21,000 feet. Charles was wealthy and moved easily in high society. The man grew up in a haunted Gothic castle at Charleville, County Offaly, Ireland. Then in 1905, he stained his skin with walnut juice and traveled into Tibet without permission, annoyed by the viceroy of Lord Curzon of India. This is important for the sheer fact that on the way home, he bought a bear cub and named him Agu, and raised it to his full height of 7 feet, which means this man knew bear prints when he saw them. Howard Bury's diary noted on September 22, 1921, "We distinguished hare and fox tracks, but one mark, like the one of the human foot, was most puzzling. The coolies assured me that it was the track of a wild hairy man, and that these were occasionally to be found in the wilds of most inaccessible mountains." Later, he expanded the tale. Charles reported that the party was camped 20,000 feet and set off at 4 a.m. in bright moonlight to make their crossing of the pass. On the way, Charles and Mallory saw the footprints, which were probably caused by a large loping gray wolf, which in the soft snow formed double track rather than like those of a barefooted man. However, the porters pushed that the tracks were made by a wild man of the snows. They called the Yeti the Meto Kangmi. And from there, the last story I have for you. In 1970, the plumbing climber like Mario, Don Williams, saw strange footprints near his camp on Annapurna? Yeah, we're going to go with Annapurna. Later that night, he witnessed an ape-like creature walking for 20 minutes through binoculars a quarter of a mile away about. Don could clearly see a powerful animal bounding along on all fours and heading straight up the slope in the bright moonlight. It looked like an ape. He remarked that in the morning, his Mars bars were all gone. Blame that on the beast or on your campmates. That's on you. He took a couple of Sherpas with him to see the area he saw the beast in the morning. He was quoted, "I thought I'd see the reaction at the point where I'd photographed the tracks the day before. The tracks were so obvious that it was impossible not to make any comment, but they walked straight past and didn't indicate that they'd seen them at all. I'd already said that I had seen the Yeti, not knowing exactly what it was, but they pretended they didn't understand and ignored what I said. I'm convinced that they believe the Yeti does exist, that this is some kind of sacred animal which is best left alone, that if you don't bother it, it just won't bother you. Best I can gauge is, if you run into the Yeti, pray it just wanders off. If you're attacked, you better have several rounds of ammunition because from all the lore I've heard, it's much stronger, angrier, and nastier than the Bigfoot. So there's a good chance you'll lunch me if you aren't packing with a full team sticking back to back on a mountain peak." The mythical Yeti is a mysterious and unknown creature that inhabits the remote Himalayan mountains, including Mount Everest in Central Asia, Nepal, Tibet, China, and southern Russia. This legendary being is an erect bipedal animal that is over 6 feet tall, weighs between 200 and 400 pounds, is covered with a red to gray hair, whistles Waka Flocka in the wind, has a bad smell, and is usually nocturnal and secretive. If you know anything about the Himalayas, you've probably heard of or seen a thing or two about the Yeti. Hell, he has a roller coaster ride that's pretty dope in Florida. The Yeti comes and goes like a hairy ghost, just showing up rather than being found by tracking. Some stories show that it's been seen flying, but who knows that it's not just jumping off a cliff and skydiving. It's more often than not heard of killing goats and other livestock. They like to kidnap young women and take them to their cave where they make children. And they're often, more times than not, throwing stones at humans. And that's the Bigfoot and the Yeti. What are your thoughts on these big guys? Me, I believe that these things are either just evolutionary cousins that like their privacy and have gotten smarter over the years, or that, like the Jersey Devil, jump between universes or dimensions and just ride it out before their next jump. Who knows, though? Maybe they're an alien species that you wouldn't expect since they're not kidnapping, probing, and finger-popping our government's buttholes. If you're in the States, I recommend checking out the various Bigfoot museums. There you can find footprints, pictures, videos, and statue depictions, and plenty more lore, attractions, and obviously waiting to be utilized gift shop. Seriously, if you check one out, show me some pics because I want to see if there's any differences between any of the different museums. All I know is that they're all part of the same chain. And that's this episode. It's a lot shorter than I wanted, but I need to start packing and get out of here. So follow me on Instagram and send in some suggestions, stories, or questions at a.hunters.guide. I'll be back soon with stories and lore on whatever creature we're talking about next. If you don't hear from me, Bigfoot got me. I'm heading out today to the Appalachian for a few days to go catch that big-footed idiot. So, catch you later.